Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever just stopped and thought, wait, why is it in the morning?
Yeah.
At night?
Hmm.
Or maybe, you know how you get in a taxi, but then you're suddenly on a bus. It feels, well, random.
It really does. Those little words, in, on, het, they pop up everywhere, don't they? Time, place.
Yeah.
And it often feels like you just have to guess or memorize lists.
Exactly. And that feeling, that confusion, is precisely why we're tackling this today.
Right.
For this deep dive, you shared some really helpful source material with us, a transcript, actually, that breaks down the rules for in, on, and at.
Yeah, it laid things out pretty clearly.
So our mission here is to take those key ideas, those rules from the material, and just lay them out simply, clearly.
Kind of a shortcut.
Exactly, a shortcut. So you can understand these tricky words better and, feel more confident using them.
Sounds good. And the material did suggest a kind of core idea, didn't it? A pattern to help make sense of it all.
It did. What was that main pattern you noticed?
Well, what's really interesting and what the transcript highlighted is that the same basic idea often works for both time and place.
Okay.
It's this pattern of moving from general to more specific. So in tends to be the most general.
Right.
On is sort of in the middle, a bit more specific. And then at is usually the most specific, the most precise point.
General.
Yeah.
Middle. Specific. Okay, I like that. It's a framework.
Yeah, thinking of it as this general to specific journey can really help you figure out which one to use.
Okay, let's test that. How does it work for time? Starting with in, the most general one for time.
Exactly right. For time, in is for your big, broad periods. Think large brushstrokes on the calendar or the clock.
The future.
Yeah.
The past. The present. Those are pretty big concepts.
They really are. And it goes for years, too, not just one specific year like in 1991 or 1994,
Okay.
but also bigger chunks like decades in the 90s or even whole centuries in the 19th century.
Right. The material had examples like, in 1994 I was born, or being born in the 90s. Makes sense.
And seasons, too. Big parts of the year. So in summer, in winter.
In autumn, in spring. Got it. Big divisions.
Mm-hmm. And then slightly smaller, but still not a single day, you've got months in June, in November.
Okay.
We're talking about weeks, like in 5 weeks' time or in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Still a block of time.
And those general parts of the day, right? In the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening.
Yes. So definitely in for time covers those larger, less specific periods. Big containers of time, you could say.
Okay, so in is the big container. What happens when we zoom in a bit, get more specific? That's where on comes in for time.
Precisely. On is the next step. We're narrowing it down from that general period to usually a specific day or a date.
Like a full date. You mentioned on the 10th of June, 1994. That's way more specific than just in June.
Exactly. It pins it down to that one spot on the calendar. And this also includes specific days of the week.
Like on Monday, on Friday.
Right. And you can even combine it, remember. If you name the day, even with a part of the day, it becomes on. So on Friday evening, on Saturday morning.
Not in Friday evening, okay.
No, on Friday evening.
And what about holidays? The rule was on if it has the word day in it.
That's a really key one the material pointed out.
Yes.
On Christmas Day, on New Year's Day.
Or on a bank holiday. You'd maybe need to explain bank holiday quickly.
Oh, right. Yeah, a bank holiday, like the source said, is just a public holiday. Banks, schools are usually closed. Often it's a Monday. So you're on that specific day.
Okay, so you're on Christmas Day, but maybe not on Christmas itself. Is that the tricky bit?
Exactly. You're jumping ahead, but that's perfect. That shows the pattern. We'll get to the at part for that soon.
Okay, cool.
But sticking with on, it's also for specific days of the month, like on the 4th of July or on the first day of September.
Right. Specific days. And there was that other one, on time.
Yes, the phrase on time,
Yeah.
meaning you arrived exactly when you were supposed to. I arrived to work on time.
Okay, so summing up on for time, it's really about specific days. Dates. Named days.
You got it. Specific points on the calendar.
Cool. So in for the big chunks, on for the specific days. Leaves at. That must be the most specific for time.
That's a pattern. Atadine usually pinpoints a very precise moment, a specific point.
The clearest one is clock time, right? At 10 euro a.m. at 3 o'clock.
Exactly. Can't get much more specific than that.
Or those points in the day linked to activities, like at lunchtime. Or natural events, at sunset, at sunrise.
Yes, a specific point identified by an event. And that really common phrase, at the moment.
Oh yeah, at the moment. The material mentioned people shorten it to at a diem sometimes, like texting. What are you doing at a diem?
Exactly, very common slang.
And now, the holidays. The other half of that rule. It's at when there's no day.
Yes, perfect. So you're at Christmas if you mean the whole holiday period, the season, or at Easter, talking about the whole week after.
But on Christmas Day, for just the 25th.
Precisely. At Christmas, the general festive period. On Christmas Day, the specific 24 hours. It shows that general versus specific idea perfectly.
Wow, okay. That at Christmas versus on Christmas Day really does make the whole general to specific thing click for time.
It's a great little example, isn't it? And one last common one for at is at night.
Ah, right, not in the night.
No, always at night.
Okay, so at for time, super precise clock times. Specific points like lunchtime or sunset, holiday periods without the word day, and at night, the pattern holds.
It really does seem to. And what's great, as the material showed, is that this whole general to specific idea, it works for place, too.
Okay, let's switch gears. Place, same logic. In is the most general place.
Exactly. For place, in is used for your large areas,
Yeah.
big geographical spaces.
Countries, cities.
Yep. In England, in Ireland, in Jakarta, in Seville. Also larger regions like in the Cotswolds or even neighborhoods like in Kensington.
Yeah.
Big areas.
Okay, and the source material had that other key rule for place,
Mhm.
enclosed spaces.
This is so important and, yes, sometimes feels a bit weird at first. You are in a taxi, in a car, even in a helicopter.
Right. The material suggested thinking about it like a small space you kind of have to duck or crouch to get into.
That's a really helpful visual. It helps distinguish it from other transport later. And it also applies to rooms and buildings, naturally. You're in a classroom, in the house.
Still enclosed. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And interestingly, the source also mentions using in for things like books or newspapers.
Oh, yeah.
It's in the books. I read it in the Times. Look it up in the dictionary. I saw that in the newspaper. Like, the information is contained inside.
Okay. So for place, in is for large geographical areas, any enclosed spaces, whether that's a room, a car, or even a newspaper.
Pretty much.
What?
Now, moving to on for place, less general than in, what sort of middle ground places are we talking about?
Well, often relates to surfaces or lines or platforms.
Surfaces makes intuitive sense. On the floor, on the ceiling, on the table, on the roof. Something is resting on it.
Right. And streets are treated like lines or surfaces. On Fleet Street, on Fifth Avenue, on the King's Road.
Exactly. Like your position on that line on the map. And floors in a building are treated like surfaces, too.
On the first floor, on the top floor.
Now, here comes that transport contrast we mentioned.
Right. You're in a car, that small enclosed space.
But you're on a train, on a bus, on a plane.
On for those, the source had an idea.
Yeah, the suggestion was to think of these as larger vehicles, more like platforms you can stand up and walk around on. Less enclosed, maybe, than ducking into a car.
Ah, okay. In a car, small, enclosed versus on a bus, larger, platform-like. That visual helps contrast them. It's a classic tricky point.
It really is. And finally, for on, it's used for media and communication platforms.
Like on TV.
Exactly. On the TV, on the internet, on the news, on the radio, you might say, I heard it on the radio, or I was on the radio last week.
Got it. Okay. So on for place.
Yeah.
Surfaces, lines like streets, public transport you can walk on, and media platforms.
You've got it. Which brings us finally to at for place. The most specific point again.
That's the idea. At is for very precise locations. Think of it as a specific point, not really an area or a surface.
Like an address.
Exactly. The most specific is a full address. Number 10 High Street. Or maybe a house name like the Red House, Bedford Street. The material mentioned, some houses have names, not just numbers.
Okay, super specific point. What else?
Specific locations that feel like a point on a map. At the bus stop. At the museum. You're not necessarily inside the whole museum area yet, but you're at that specific spot.
The destination point, right?
It also includes specific types of places, like shops.
Ah, like at the coffee shop.
Yes, at the coffee shop, at the bakery, at the butcher's. You're at that specific point of business.
Okay. And venues for activities.
Yeah, places where group things happen. At a party, at a concert, at a theater. You're at the event location.
Right.
Now, a really, really important set of at uses you'll hear all the time. Home, work, school.
Ah, yes. You're always at home, at work, at school, at university.
Treated like specific points you go to.
That's a key set to remember. Definitely. The source also mentioned using at with top, bottom, and end.
Like at the top of the page?
At the top of the page, at the bottom of the stairs, at the end of the river. Pinpointing an end or edge.
Okay. And there was that slightly tricky one about desks or tables.
Ah, yeah, the difference between being at a surface and putting things on it.
How did that work again?
Well, you sit at your desk or you sit at a table. You're positioned at that point for working or eating.
Okay.
But your computer, your book, your cup, those things are on the desk or on the table, resting on the surface.
Ah, I see. You were positioned at it, but objects rest on it. Makes sense.
Yeah. So at for place is really about those precise points addresses, specific spots like bus stops, shops, venues, key locations like home and work, and being positioned at surfaces.
Wow. Okay. We have definitely covered a lot in this deep dive looking at rules on this topic.
Haha. Nice one. Yes, we have. But bringing it all back, that main idea from the source material.
That general to specific pattern.
Exactly. For the big picture, on for the middle ground or surfaces, at for the very specific points. It really does seem to be a helpful guide for both time and place.
It does feel like a useful mental hook. And the transcript you shared also made a really good point. Just knowing the rules isn't quite enough, is it?
Not really. Practice is key. The source even mentioned having extra things like a quiz to help you practice using them. You hear it, you understand it, but using it yourself is what makes it stick.
Definitely. And that's what we wanted to achieve today, really.
Yeah.
Take those core ideas from the material, unpack in, on, and at for time and place, using that general to specific pattern as our guide.
Hopefully, yeah, having that framework makes it all feel a bit less random and a bit clearer.
It should help you feel more confident when you're speaking or writing, trying to choose the right little word.
Absolutely.
So maybe you have a final thought to leave you with building on all this. Now that you're aware of this pattern, these rules, maybe start actively listening for them and looking for them.
How do you mean?
Like when you hear native speakers talk or when you're reading something or watching a show, try to spot the ins, ons, and ats.
Ah, see if they fit the pattern we talked about.
Exactly. Does the usage match up with general, surface line, or specific point? Noticing them used correctly in real situations.
Makes the rules feel less like rules and more like just how the language works.
Precisely. You might actually be surprised how much you start noticing them now. And that kind of awareness can really help make it all sink in even better.